A man made from earth, a prayer turned into flesh, and a warning that still lingers in the rafters of an old synagogue. I'm James, this is Mythic Tides, and today we journey to Prague to uncover the legend of the Golem. In the cobbled hush of 16th century Prague, beneath the looming spires and the watchful gaze of the Altneuschul synagogue, the air hung thick with fear. Rumours swirled like smoke in the alleyways, whispers of blood libel, of plots and pogroms. The Jewish quarter lived on the edge of a blade, and in those days, even a false accusation could ignite catastrophe. Rabbi Loew, the Maharal of Prague, was no stranger to peril. Wise, bearded, and bowed only to God, he was a man steeped in mysticism as much in law. And it was said he could read the very letters of creation the way a poet reads his own dreams. One night, as the story goes, the rabbi had a vision, a message from heaven, or perhaps his own troubled heart, instructing him to shape a protector for his people, not of sword or steel, but of earth. And so, beneath the full moon, he led two trusted pupils, Rabbi Loew and Rabbi Isaac, to the banks of the Vltava river. There, with whispered prayers and trembling hands, they sculpted a man from clay, towering, fearless, inert, a shape more than a soul. Then came the sacred words, the incantations, the divine name etched on parchment and slipped beneath his tongue. And as the final letter hung on Loew's lips, the clay shuddered, it opened its eyes, it lived. The golem was named Joseph and did not speak, but he obeyed. He swept the streets, he lit the lamps, he guarded the synagogue. He patrolled the quarter at night like a silent colossus, deterring would-be attackers with a glance as blank as stone. For a time, peace settled over Prague. The golem had become a bulwark against hate, a miracle wrought from mud. But legends like clay crack with pressure. Joseph grew stronger, bolder, and perhaps, though the tales are murky, he began to misunderstand his orders. When asked to fetch water, he flooded a house. When told to protect the community, he struck a man who only bore angry words, not weapons. A creature of obedience, yes, but not of discernment. Some say the rabbi forgot to deactivate him one Sabbath. Others say the golem went mad with the very weight of his own strength. Either way, Rabbi Loew knew the time had come. He approached his creation in the attic of the Altneuschul, the place where the golem now paced, agitated and confused. With heavy heart, Loew removed the parchment, the sacred name, the divine breath that animated earth. The golem stiffened and collapsed, clay once more. They say the body still lies there in that attic, covered in dust and wrapped in silence, waiting. And the legend holds this, that should danger threaten Prague's Jews again, the golem may rise, not with wrath, but with purpose. A man made of earth, a prayer made of letters, a warning forever asleep in the rafters. A golem in the annals of Jewish folklore is a curious creature indeed, summoned not by wand or wand-waving wizard, but by sacred syllables and the clinging damp of clay. Crafted from dust or mud and animated by divine utterance, this silent sentinel would then serve its maker, performing tasks both noble and mundane. No soul to trouble it, no tongue to wag, but strength had strength in spades. It could bake your bread, wash your robes, or if need be, stand guard against the pitchforked wrath of the persecuting mob. The golem is brought into being through the arcane practices laid out in the Sefer Yetzirah, the Book of Creation, an ancient volume of Jewish mysticism whose roots may reach as far back as the Talmudic period of the 2nd century AD, or perhaps even earlier into the 2nd century BC. In the Kabbalistic imagination, creation itself is something of a divine algorithm, 10 mystical emanations, the Seraphit, cascading like prisms of light. To comprehend them is to grasp the spiritual source code of existence, to manipulate them. Well, that's nothing short of trying to hack heaven, with all the metaphysical hazards that such a feat entails. To create a golem, the rabbi must shape a man-like figure from clay, dust or wood, and then employ the teachings of the Sefer Yetzirah to compose a sacred permutation of letters, often including Shem or Emeth, to invoke the name of God. That sounds esoteric, it's because it's meant to be, knowledge reserved for the Kabbalistic elite. This combination is then inscribed on parchment and either affixed to the golem's head or tucked inside its mouth. Thus animated, the golem lives. To extinguish it, its master need only append meth, death, to its brow or extract the life-giving parchment. And let us not glide too quickly past the curious business with the letters. The word emeth, truth, gives life. Remove the aleph and you're left with meth, death. A single stroke of ink separates animation from annihilation. The power of names in Jewish mysticism is immense. To know the true name of a thing is to hold sway over its essence. It's the same idea we see in Egyptian Heka or the whispered spells on Norse runes. Once animated, the golem obeys every command with unwavering diligence. Yet obedience does not mean harmony. In tale after tale, the creature grows ever larger, ever stronger, and ever more difficult to control. Some feared that left unchecked, a golem might eventually imperil the world it was meant to protect. The legend, in fact, is often cited as a precursor to Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Indeed, Mary Shelley's patchwork Prometheus shares much with the golem, not least the tragedy of being created but unloved, a being made to serve yet cast aside. Like the golem, Frankenstein's creature is not evil by nature, only by neglect. Both stand as warnings against the arrogance of unchecked creation. Most tales of golems spring from the Ashkenazi Jewish community of Central and Eastern Europe, where such a protector might well have seemed necessary. The most storied of all hails from 16th century Prague, a city brimming with mysticism, messianic hope, and very real danger. It's said that Rabbi Loew ben Bezalel created the golem to shield the Jewish community from threats of violence, false accusations, and persecution. The earliest known appearance of the word golem is nestled in Psalm 139:16. Thine eyes did see my golem, yet being unformed, and in thy Sefer all the Yamin ordained for me were written down, when as yet there were none of them. In this setting, golem connotes something unfinished, an embryo, an unshaped potential. Some later interpretations link this notion of the unformed with the early concept of Adam himself, sculpted from dust and animated by divine breath. The Talmud, that grand repository of Jewish legal and mystical thought, offers several tantalising mentions of golems. One recounts the prophet Jeremiah fashioning such a creature. Another tells of a group of rabbis who, overcome with hunger during their travels, conjure a golem in the shape of a lamb, only to slaughter and eat it. But it's in the Middle Ages that the golem legend assumes its most memorable form. Rabbi Loew's golem, formed from clay, was a servant and a protector. Two versions of the tale diverge at this point. In one, the golem grows wild and begins attacking civilians and must be deactivated by the rabbi, who removes the sacred letters from its mouth. In the other, the tale is almost domestic. Loew routinely powers down the golem each Sabbath to protect sanctity. A similar story hails from Kelm, where Rabbi Elijah Bahal Shem created a golem that soon became dangerously unruly. In one version, the rabbi succeeds in stopping the creature, but is killed in the process, crushed beneath the weight of his own creation. It's a particularly striking tale, this one, a rabbi wrestling his own creation in the moonlit streets of Kelm, the sacred letters still glowing on its brow. And when at last he removes the parchment, the golem collapses, not with grace, but with weight, enough to crush its maker, a parable not just of power, but of consequence. Still earlier, the 11th century Spanish Jewish philosopher Salomon ibn Gabriel was rumoured to have created the golem as a housemaid. The king, scandalised by this act of artificial life, ordered the philosopher punished, but Gabriel quietly dissembled the creature before any charges could be laid. And in the early 19th century, one Rabbi David Jaffe of Doritzen is said to have made a golem to handle the bread baking on the Sabbath. Alas, this golem was less than precise. One botched oven setting led to a blaze that reduced the entire town to cinders. An earnest attempt at Sabbath efficiency ended in ash. Is it possible that the golem has a history extending back further in time than Jewish texts? Some scholars argue that many Bronze Age mythologies depict God as a potter, making humans from clay. They point to the Temple of Khnum in Esna, Egypt, which features the creator god Khnum at his potter's wheel, making human bodies from clay. Greek mythology also reflects this impulse. Zeus is said to have ordered the gods to fashion humans from earth, and later tasked Hephaestus to sculpt Pandora, the first woman, from clay. Mesopotamian lore adds Enkidu, created by the gods from mud, as a counterpart to civilized man. Even Galatea, carved from ivory and brought to life by Aphrodite, shows this enduring fascination. Each of these stories touches on the dream and danger of creating life from inert matter, but the golem is unique in its soulless obedience, a life animated by language alone. Legends like clay are pliable. They hold shape only as long as we press meaning into them, and if you thought the golem had retired to some dusty corner of a Prague synagogue attic, think again. He slipped into our novels, our screens, our collective imagination, not with a shout, but with the slow, thunderous tread of something very old trying to keep up with something very new. In the deliciously occult world of Supernatural, where demons wear suits and angels drive Chevys, the golem arrives as a weapon, ancient, unreadable, and indignant. In the episode Everybody Hates Hitler, we meet Aaron Bass, the unlikely heir to a secret order of Jewish scholars who once battled Nazi necromancers. Yes, necromancers, who in the supernatural cosmos are very much real and very much overdue for a clay-based reckoning. Aaron's grandfather left him not just a scroll or prayer book, but an 8-foot golem, all grim silence and crushing strength. Unfortunately, no one bothered to pass on the instruction manual. The golem obeys, yes, he also glares, judges, and occasionally throws people through walls. He wants a master, and he knows exactly when he's being mismanaged. The episode offers a clever nod to the core golem tension. He does what you ask, not what you mean, and he will not wait politely while you figure it out. A creature of faith in search of a competent manager. And then there is the X-Files, always darker, more mournful, more lit by torchlight than neon. In an episode called Kaddish, we meet a woman named Ariel, grieving her fiancé Isaac, murdered in a hate crime. No legal justice is forthcoming, no peace is offered, so Ariel turns to something older, something sacred, something dangerous. She shapes the golem from the soil of a Brooklyn cemetery, carves the letters, and breathes life into vengeance. But the golem does not simply kill, he mourns, he weeps, he watches over her like a ghost of what might have been. There's a tenderness in his wrath, a pain beneath the power. He is grief made muscular, and the story never lets us forget that behind every avenger stands someone who simply wanted their beloved to come home. Not to be outdone by mystics and medieval rabbis, Marvel Comics conjured their own golem in the 1970s, a towering, silent figure summoned from Jewish legend into the pages of Strange Tales and his own short-lived series. Bound to a modern-day professor, this clay colossus is reawakened by injustice and grief, much like the original Prague protector. He does not quip, he does not fly, he lumbers with solemn purpose, exacting vengeance on those who threaten the innocent. His strength is vast, his mind is blank, and his presence haunted by the tragic echoes of servitude and silence. Though his run was short, Marvel's golem kept the ancient questions alive. What does it mean to animate a being without a soul? And can protection ever truly be without consequence? Marvel's golem also fits snugly alongside other comic archetypes, not just as a brute, but as a symbol of legacy and restraint, a silent superhero whose greatest weapon is his unwavering obedience. Though born of cosmic radiation and not rabbinic ritual, Ben Grimm, aka The Thing, is arguably a modern golem in spirit. Transformed into a hulking, clay-like figure of raw power, he is trapped in a form he didn't choose. Ostracised despite his heroism, defined by loyalty and protection, especially towards his family in the Fantastic Four. Like the golem, the Thing is mute to his own desires, often reduced to what he can do rather than who he is. He's the team muscle, the rock, the blunt force. but inside is a deeply human, often grieving soul. His famous line, "It's clobbering time," might as well be the Golem's cri de guerre, equal part duty and sorrow. And let's not forget, Ben Grimm is Jewish. Writers like Stan Lee and Jack Kirby imbued him with Yiddish humour, Bronx grit, and a quiet spiritual depth. In that sense, his journey becomes more than superheroics. It's a modern myth of exile, transformation, and moral endurance. Paul Wegener's silent film classic, The Golem, How He Came Into the World, is all flickering candles and stone corridors, a fever dream of mysticism and menace. The Golem here is a behemoth, yes, but also a tragic figure, turned on by the very people who sought to save. Think Frankenstein, but with more Torah scrolls. Michael Chabon's Pulitzer-winning novel, The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay, opens with a golem smuggled out of Europe in a coffin, hidden beneath comics and hope. It's a breathtaking image, the protector of the ghetto slipping into exile, awaiting a new purpose in a new land. The golem is a symbol of memory, migration, and unresolved pain. From The Witcher to Dungeons and Dragons, the golem becomes an archetype, the ambiguous construct, usually mute, often disposable, rarely understood. Yet even here, the old stories echoes, power without will, creation without a soul. The Golem legend is often seen as symbolic. In some ways, it's simply a way for Jewish mystics to feel closer to God. However, on a larger scale, the Golem often represents the fears and worries of the Jewish community. The Jewish Museum in Berlin states, central to the Golem legend is the human desire to create, together with a range of themes including creativity, control, power, and salvation. The Golem also symbolises each era's dreaded dangers and hopes for redemption. And in this age, we've made golems of a different kind. Algorithms we barely understand, AI models we train without foreseeing their growth, surveillance systems built to protect us that quietly start watching a little too closely, political movements unleashed in defence of order that threaten to flatten nuance. These too are golems, built with good intentions, animated by power, and increasingly difficult to turn off. We thought the Golem belonged to another age, parchment, prayer, candlelight. But he's here, repackaged in glowing screens and smart assistants. Silent as ever, powerful as ever, built to protect us. But one day we may look up and find him staring back, wondering perhaps whether we are still his masters or merely his makers. Thanks for watching, folks. If you've got something to say about the Golem, please let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe, it really helps. I'm James, this is Mythic Tides. See you soon.